everyone, welcome to Geekly Recap, your source of geeky info where we review your favourite TV shows week by week. We delve into the intricate details, helping us all understand the plot and process it together.
This week we'll be getting stuck in with episode 2 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I hope you've got a drink in hand and you're ready, so let's get to work.
So hi Meryl, how are you?
Hi Harva, I'm okay, how are you?
I'm good!
I actually haven't seen you this week.
I know, we actually stayed away from each other to keep ourselves fresh for this podcast.
Because last time we were a bit like, we said some gems and then we kept going, save it for the podcast. So This time I thought our first impressions might be different, so it might be interesting.
Exactly, we'll see how it goes. And we didn't have the trouble of doing a group watch this time round.
I watched mine on a PS4 again.
Yeah, so I watched mine on the Fire Stick and it started to glitch, but I knew that I was going to rewatch it for a second time, so then I did it on the PlayStation. It was smooth.
Okay.
Smooth. Yeah, because I messaged you and I was like, I want to talk about it. And you were like, no, let's save it. But we'll see the difference, obviously, this week to last week. And next week is Good Friday. Episode 3, and we'll be watching it together then anyway, so.
Exactly. Harva and I are usually on the same wavelength, like, all the time. And we sometimes start saying something and we realise we both had the exact same thought. So this will either prove that this is what we do, or you'll go, they're not as in sync as they think they are. We'll find out. Experiment!
You can't see us, but we usually do, like, Chandler's hands. And you're like, we are the same.
That's basically like a favourite GIF now.
It is. I have it saved.
Okay, I guess with that, let's get into the show.
So episode 2 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is called The Star-Spangled Man, directed by Carrie Scogland.
It's written by Michael Castelline. I'm sorry if I've said that wrong. He's also worked on Apple TV series Truth Be Told and the TV show Hand of God. The synopsis for episode 2 is John Walker is named Captain America and Sam and Bucky team up against the rebel group, the Flag Smashers.
So the episode starts off with John Walker in his locker room. He's reminiscing because it's his old high school, and we see JW10 on his locker door, and his wife walks in. I think his wife.
His wife is Olivia Walker, played by Gabrielle Byrne-Loss.
This is where we see him nervous. I guess this is his first televised speech. And, you know, being the captain of the football team, you're a big deal.
Yes.
He says, everybody in the world expects me to be something, and I don't want to fail them.
Then his army friend, Lamar Hoskins, turns up. I looked up Lamar Hoskins, but Harva will get more into him later. But if you paid attention to our podcast last week, we did briefly touch on who this guy is, because he was also involved with the Power Brokers Corporation along with this John Walker dude. I refuse to call him Captain America.
Oh my God, I've been refusing calling him Captain America.
In my notes, I kept writing Cap with quote marks around them just because it was shorter.
I just refer to him as Walker.
It's too long.
It's true.
So yeah, his friend turns up and tries to kind of give him a sort of pep talk, I suppose. There's a moment where, you know, John tells him, you know, he's got a lot of speeches and handshakes and public appearances, but he just wants to do the job. And I remember this clearly because I said it just before, this is the job. And that's exactly what Lamar said afterwards. I was like, stop copying me.
You're like, I knew the script.
But then he also tells him, you can't just punch your way out of problems anymore. And this, I guess, goes back to, in the comics as well, that John Walker was a bit of a violent person, right?
Yeah.
History of violence there. So
yeah.
This goes to show you he probably was someone who dealt with things by punching people or getting into fights quite a lot.
Exactly. And I'm sure this will come up as well. We have to remember these two guys are big guys. Steve became Cap going through the process he did. These guys are already burly guys. Mm-hmm. They're the type of guys that would punch their way out of things.
Yeah.
When you're comparing the two.
I mean, we don't know much about John yet. Based on this scene, you feel like he means well. Mm-hmm. This was something that was just given to him and he accepted because he's a soldier and he says yes. But he's probably more like, I forgot his name, but the guy in the first Avenger that everyone wanted to have the serum, but Dr. Erskine said Steve would be the right person.
Yeah, exactly, because he wanted it on a weaker guy.
Yeah. But they were all like, but this guy's already great. He's already a wonderful soldier, but that's not what they needed.
There's a lot in this episode particularly that mirrors the first Avenger or goes back to moments in the first Avenger. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot more of that as the episodes go on. So we see him out in the field as marching band. It's basically what they do before a college football game or a high school football game. I don't actually know if there was a game to be played or whether this was just a whole exclusive done for ABC. Fun fact, Disney owns ABC, so of course it was going to be an exclusive to ABC. But we see Walker signing autographs and, you know, shaking hands and taking selfies, which is, again, very reminiscent to what Steve did in the 40s when he was announced as Cap in the first Avenger. But I did note down that in the first Avenger, it featured this song called The Star-Spangled Man by Alan Menken. And we hear a new version, an updated version.
Swing version, I guess.
Yeah, as new Cap or John Walker runs onto the field.
It turns out, as Harvey had said, he's being interviewed for Good Morning America for ABC. They're sitting down in the middle of the football field, surrounded by all the band and their fans. We find out a bit more about who John is, you know, finding out that I've got the quote, first person in American history to receive 3 medals of honor, Van RS-1 missions in counterterrorism and hostage rescue. The government apparently did a study of his body at MIT and he tested off the charts in every measurable category, speed, endurance, intelligence.
I'm curious as to the government doing a study of his body in MIT. Because is this referring to what we know happens in the comics? Is there a reason why he was studied for possible serum injection? That's what you call it.
Maybe, or it's just to see whether he's at the strength that they need for someone who's going to take the mantle. I don't know.
I just went, oh, that's a bit random, isn't it? Because I don't feel like soldiers go through that.
You'd have to ask a soldier. Any soldiers listening? Let us know.
Let us know. Is that a thing? Is it common?
John seems pretty humble, and this is where we find out that he's not got super strength at the moment.
During this interview, we see a strap, and it mentions, obviously, Custer's Grove High School, which is in Georgia. It was a fictional hometown of Walker. It was also home to a far-right terrorist group called the Watchdogs. They were known for attacking homosexuals, pornographers, and abortion clinics using all sorts of violence. In one of the first missions of Walker and Hoskins, they had to investigate the group, and Hoskins posed as a pornographer, which they wanted to kill.
Oh, wow.
But Walker actually feels conflicted because some of the values of the Watchdogs matches his own. We find out that the group is also funded by the Red Skull. This is a short show. This isn't going to go that far into it, but that's not to say this story might not happen. But if anyone's actually interested in reading it, I'd recommend Googling that because that story was very interesting.
The kind of deep dives we do into this stuff, like sometimes I'm just reading for ages before I remember that I was meant to be taking notes. And I'm like, I've completely gone into something else now, but this is fascinating.
It really is. You're like, I need to read this.
I know.
So during Sarah asking questions to John Walker, I can't remember what she said, but there's a moment where he laughs. And for me, it kind of reminded me of George McFly in just the way he laughed. And I just thought, you're trying to come across humble, which George McFly was, and he was lovable. He's not, but it just, I don't know, it came off a bit goony. Is that the word? For me.
Obviously, we watched this separately. And when I saw, as people will have seen if they follow us on Instagram, Harvey posted a comparison and I was just like, huh? Because in my head, not only is it that I've seen Wyatt Russell play a goon, actually, in a movie, Goon 2. I couldn't get any George McFly from him at all.
You know, you've got the captain of a football team and, you know, they're like the jock and they're jerks. For some reason, just the way he laughed and for what he says in the interview, he's trying to come across opposite of what we would stereotype him to be.
I suppose. I get that, but I don't see how that's George McFly.
It was just the way he laughed and it was like, and then there's literally where I rolled so hard that I hurt my head.
See, for me, it kind of gives you the idea, based on what we've heard about him, that there's a bit of both. Because, you know, when we see the scene with his wife earlier, she says, just be yourself. But based on what Hoskins says about the violence, it gives you an idea that he also had the potential of being the douche in the locker room, who also may have been a douche in the army.
If anyone else I mean, you don't necessarily have to have seen what I seen or seen George McFly, but you might have seen resemblance to another character in that moment. So if you've got anything, let us know.
And for anyone who somehow doesn't know, George McFly is from Back to the Future, and you should be ashamed of yourself if you don't know this.
I really, really try to like him, by the way, at this point.
Me too. But we see Bucky watching at home on the news. He's still sitting on the floor.
As we see this, Walker's still talking to Sarah. But he says a line, even though I never met him, he feels like a brother. And as soon as he said that, I scoffed. But Bucky sighs in this moment, and I saw a few different emotions go across his face, which I think it reflects the acting of Sebastian Stan here. And I wrote, I saw hurt, I saw anger, and I saw sadness. When this guy is your brother and someone says that who doesn't even know the type of person he is, it's a big thing to state.
Although, to be fair to John Walker, I also feel like even though I never met him, Steve Rogers feels like my husband.
Get in line. Get in line.
So next scene, Sam is at the airbase. He's looking at a poster of the new Cap. And it seems to be everywhere in this airbase saying, Cap is back. How dare they? So he seems to be on a mission. He has Torres there, and he's asked him to set it up short notice. He seems to be flying to Munich. Bucky appears out of nowhere. Yay, hey, Bucky.
Hi.
He's not wanted to say, hi, how are you?
He's not replying back to those text messages.
No, he just decides, no, this has to be said face to face. And what does he say, Harbour? What does he say?
Shouldn't have given up the shield.
Which we hear him say a lot. He's quite repetitive in this episode.
Yeah, he knows this isn't what Steve wanted.
Exactly, which he also says. Falcon, he is Captain America because instead of getting all like riled
Broody
up about it,
moody.
or complaining about it,
Yeah.
he knows that there's something way more important going on, a crime he has to stop.
Well, he says what could be bigger than this, and Sam shows him a picture of Dovich and explains to him the flag smashers and how he has to go to Munich and sort it out.
Yeah, and he says Red Wing traced them to a building outside Munich. Bucky apparently doesn't trust Red Wing.
Well, he's old. He probably doesn't trust technology. He's still
true.
using a flip phone.
But, you know, Falcon says it doesn't matter if you trust him, but the Flag Smashers might be part of the Big Three, which this bit really cracked me up. Because I actually did wonder, what does he mean by the Big Three as well? Did you know, Harbour?
Well, I knew because I'd seen it in the trailer, but I had no idea otherwise. It's when he mentions Dr. Strange.
Oh, yeah. He's a sorcerer. But a sorcerer is just a wizard without a hat. Apparently,
It's just the way he goes, ah.
Yeah, he's like, I just came up with that.
There's some great lines in this scene.
Definitely.
But great lines between the two. They have great chemistry.
Bucky says, who are you fighting now? Gandalf? Which I burst out laughing at.
If Ian McKellen popped up at that moment, that would have been the best cameo.
When he says, how do you know Gandalf? I was like, the books are quite old. He's going to know who Gandalf is. But he did say he read The Hobbit in 1937 when it first came out.
Yeah, in the UK. It first came out in 1937 in the UK.
Maybe he just got his years mixed up. I mean, like you said, he's old.
When we find out they're going to go to Munich, I did shout out, well, I'm glad someone can, because my Munich trip was cancelled last year.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, their priorities aren't right, because they didn't even bother trying to get to that museum we want to check out there. With the never-ending story, Falcor.
Can you imagine both of them riding Falcor?
That's a picture I want to see happen. Someone Photoshop it or tell Sebastian and Anthony. I want to be there, though.
I want to ride Falcor with him.
Falcon on Falcor? I mean, it's meant to happen, guys. So they get on the plane. Bucky joins them, even though Falcon kind of doesn't invite him along. But anyway, they're in the plane. This is also a clip they aired before the show started. Mm-hmm. Another funny little moment where they're not really talking to each other. Falcon seems to be ignoring Bucky.
Silent treatment.
Bucky's asking him, do you have a plan?
I said he doesn't have a plan.
He has a plan. But he doesn't take well to Falcon calling him Buck.
And that wasn't the first time he said it, because he calls him Buck when Bucky first appears.
Now that Steve's not here, he can actually say something. Because think about it, if Steve's there and he says something, Steve's going to be like, come on, guys.
Yeah, there's no mediator.
Exactly.
I feel like Lieutenant Torres is going to be stuck in the middle somehow.
Nah, he wishes. But yeah, I mean, Bucky's like, Steve knew me longer, and Steve had a plan.
Falcon's like, I've got a plan, and then just jumps.
But it's too low for a chute, so Bucky can't grab a parachute to go out, but he says he doesn't need one. He rips his left sleeve off, so we get to see the arm.
Hi, Mr. Bicep.
And he jumps out and hits like every branch.
I mean, considering this is meant to be a really cool scene, it's so funny.
Were you meant to do that? Was that what he was going for? Because I was thinking, how is his arm gonna become like a parachute? What is it? Does it have extra things I didn't know it could do? But no, he just hits every branch and lands on his back.
I don't know about you, because when he first jumped out, I turned around to my mum and I went, I think he's going to jump out and just force Falcon to save him.
Nah. I thought he had some cool technique we were about to see, but it was pretty much just let gravity do its job.
Yes. I just love it, though, that as he lands, you've obviously got Red Wing and got Falcon saying in his ear, I've got all of that on camera.
Doesn't he say, like, get this thing out my face or I'm going to break it?
Yeah. So we see Bucky and Sam enter an abandoned warehouse. And as Bucky's walking about, Sam is using Red Wing. And we see Bucky just swat it like it's an annoying fly. I laughed way more than I should, considering that we're getting to a serious scene.
I know, but this is the thing. This is, I think, what some people will love and what some people will hate. Because, I mean, we're living for the fact that they're going to have these moments because that's what we liked. From Civil War, we knew that we were going to have a great time with these two characters. But yeah, I think for some people, they're not really as keen on the comedy between them. I don't know why, because why would you be watching this if you weren't expecting it? But I do think some people aren't necessarily that interested in their relationship when it comes to the cute stuff.
I don't necessarily think it's cute, but I think it's finding a right balance. And at the end of the day, this isn't going to be a Daredevil or Punisher type of show. It's going to have the dark themes, but they're going to make it more lighthearted.
Exactly.
But one of the reasons for this show was literally based off the scene of Sam and Bucky in the car when Cap kisses Sharon Carter. That I know we didn't enjoy that bit.
We weren't nodding. We were shaking our heads.
I know. So yeah, Sam tells him that he thinks the group in there are smuggling weapons. But Sam jokes about Bucky being stealthy after Wakanda as he's moving through the warehouse. And he says, you're like a white panther. And he goes, actually, it's White Wolf.
White Wolf has been mentioned before, I believe. But in the comics, you know, because I didn't really read too much into who White Wolf was, or just assumed it was Bucky in the comics, but he wasn't. So people that don't know, Hunter was the name of the original White Wolf in the comics. He was adopted by the king, T'Chaka, in Wakanda. And because he was a foreigner and white, they kind of viewed him with suspicion because they were quite xenophobic, apparently. But he developed a true love for Wakanda and became one of the adopted home's staunchest patriots. But when T'Challa was born, he kind of got jealous because he realized he wasn't going to become the next king. And he wanted to upstage him. So he tried to be the best Wakandan possible. While he was a good Wakandan, he wasn't very nice.
No.
Sam and Bucky seem to get pretty competitive over their abilities. Bucky just wants to fight. He's ready. But Sam's kind of like, come on, man, just let's watch them. Let's figure out what the situation is. But Bucky's just like, I've got a metal arm.
Exactly. And he's like, I can fly.
But he uses Red Wing to do like a sort of X-ray scan. And they find that there seems to be 8 people. And one of them appears to be a hostage as they're sitting in one of the trucks. And that's when Bucky runs and Falcon flies.
This is where I actually forgot how fast Bucky is. We know he's a super soldier at the end of the day, but I saw it and I was like, bloody hell.
And he wasn't out of breath.
No. I would have just given up. But yeah, he ends up jumping onto one of the trucks, opens it.
The one in front.
He actually sees the crates and he says they're stealing vaccines or medicine. Funny enough, I noticed something on these vaccines and they said GRC, which we mentioned. Well, we mentioned last week and we'll mention later. So he sees the girl who's hiding in between these crates and we know who she is.
Yeah, I immediately was like, ah!
And as soon as I see her smile, I'm like, uh-oh.
I know. Because she had like such a nice little lost look.
Like an innocent...
Yeah. And I mean, she has that later as well when we see her. I kind of like that because as much as they are sort of, I guess, the villains of the season, you do kind of think that these are definitely people that don't see themselves as villains.
Again, we'll bring it up later, but they are referenced to something, a character that, you know, we're like, but was he bad or was he good? Rhymes with good.
But yeah, for people that don't remember or didn't listen, we did bring up the character of Carly last week because she kind of made a very brief appearance. In the comics, it's Carl Morgenthau, not Carly Morgenthau. He was the original Flag Smasher in the comics. It wasn't just a group, it was a person. And it was a freedom fighter whose goal was to liberate Earth from the oppression of national rule. He was also the son of a wealthy Swiss banker turned diplomat. And I think in the comics anyway, he meant to do well. He wanted to be a good person. He wanted to be a diplomat like his dad. But when his dad got trampled to death in a riot, he kind of changed his tune and he decided to spread his message through violence rather than peace.
She kicks Bucky out of
well,
the
we
truck.
assume she kicks him out. We don't see. He just flies out.
Did we not see her kick?
No, we just see him burst out of the truck, so we don't know what she did.
Well, assuming he got kicked out and he just smashes into the windscreen of the truck behind. And this is where we realise they're all super soldiers.
And they're all wearing the mask.
Yeah. Although she's already shown her face now.
But maybe that's more so we know who they are in case people didn't realise.
Yeah. Cue another exciting fight scene. So we've got 8 soldiers, we've got Bucky, and, you know, he makes it known to Falcon, thanks for joining.
Well, yeah, but before Falcon turns up, Red Wing turns up, and what the hell does Carly do?
She literally just grabs it and smashes it over her knee.
I gasped. But then Bucky says, I always wanted to do that, and that broke the tension. I went,
really
okay.
did. I did also write down in my notes that, depending if anyone has played Uncharted, there is a scene where you're fighting on top of moving trains.
Sounds like a very stressful moment in a video game that I'd probably stop playing.
Oh, it is. Especially when the camera angles change. You're like, oh my God, I can't keep up.
No, I hate it.
But it reminded me of that, and it was exciting to see, again, another very well shot scene. And yeah, they're getting their asses handed to them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Bucky's strong, but against that many people, no.
Yeah.
I did notice on the truck, because, you know, like if you remember WandaVision, there were like numbers all over the place and they all meant maybe something or they meant nothing and we just looked into it too much. Mm-hmm. On the truck, it had D56. I looked up so many different things for this. But the one thing I found, no idea if it was about this at all, but I just thought it was a really cool issue. It's called Avengers Volume 156. And in it, I want to read these. They just sound so good.
I know.
So,
there's so many good stories.
Yeah. So Avengers, right, in this comic, they go back in time to Bucky's death. They appear in the past in spirit form. They see Baron Zemo with a humanoid he created, and Captain America and Bucky smash through the window and attack. They're beaten and strapped to a bomb. And then meanwhile, the Wasp, who's like looking after their time travel-y stuff, she falls asleep, which causes the Avengers to appear in solid form now. And then Captain America severs the bonds holding the past Captain America and Bucky. Then the Wasp awakens and the Avengers turn into spirit form again, right? So the old Captain America and Bucky try to stop the V2 bomb from launching, but just as Captain America remembers, he slips and Bucky dies destroying it. And then they return to the future.
How many times do these guys die? Because they're all set in different universes. How many times do they die and resurrect?
Crazy.
I think it's just become an ongoing thing that we know Marvel's going to place an egg in a license plate. So we just Google all of it, whatever we can. But this is the bit Lamar Hoskins and I don't want to say the new Cap. So and John Walker, they save them pretty much. They need help and they're there at the right place at the right time. And we see the shield fly out.
And I don't know about you, Harva, but when it happened, I definitely for a second forgot what was going on. And I went, and then I went, oh yeah, the other guy's got it.
Yeah, I think I had the same reaction, but I scoffed again.
He scoffed.
There was a lot of eye rolls and a lot of scoffs from me from this episode. Just because I have to give credit to Wyatt Russell when you know he's doing a good job, when he took on a role where he knew he was basically going to be hated. You've taken on a role where you just know you're going to be a poor man's version of Captain America.
Yeah.
He's like the one you'll get in the pound shop.
Yeah, for sure. But see, for me, when he turned up in this scene, I did eye roll because I knew that he didn't have what it took to handle this situation.
Yeah, he's not a super soldier.
He's just a guy with the shield. And if he doesn't have the shield, he's even more useless because the shield was basically the only thing he had against them. And there's a bit where he's flinging it about like a frisbee as he does. Bucky catches it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this because Bucky's moment where he grabs the shield, it's a split-second moment where Walker grabs the shield from him. But he does this, whether it's a mini sigh or he just gives this look where it's like, oh, it was in my hands and now it's gone. Walker introduces himself and introduces Hoskins as well. And this is where I noticed a couple of other license plates that I wanted to bring up. One said MKA5012. The only thing I could find was in Earth 5012, not 616, where most of it takes place. Tony Stark becomes an Iron Maniac, and he's basically like a villain of himself, which I thought was interesting. I didn't delve quite into it, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I didn't look too into it, but it did also say that in Earth 5012, Captain America and Black Widow appear to be dead.
Again, but in another universe, they're alive. I'm going to bring it up. It's coming. Don't you worry. Again, there's a moment where another character's dead and you read it and you go, but didn't they die this way? And it's a completely different death because it's a completely different universe. And another license plate, 2011 EKH. The only thing that I found that a lot of people found online was that it's exactly the same as Wanda's license plate in episode 8 of WandaVision.
Yeah.
However, when we went to recheck, because you mentioned you saw
Excelsior, yeah, on hers. I don't know if the EKH is, or the 2011 even, are anything to do with Stan Lee. I looked it up. I couldn't really find anything aside from me reaching. So there's no point. But if anyone does know, let us know.
It's not just a coincidence that they both display the same number. I feel like there is something in there. So Sam saves Bucky.
But before it, he says, you got your ass kicked or whatever by a little girl or something. And that annoyed me because I was like, so? You've worked with women before. There was no need for that sexism, Falcon.
I mean, he knows they're super soldiers. So I guess he is playing on the fact that, I mean, it is a super soldier at the end of the day.
No, it just sounded sexist. In this day and age, that kind of dialogue does not need to be said in anything. Especially since they've worked with women that could kick their asses. Especially Falcon. You don't even have super strength. What are you talking about?
See, I just disagree there because I'm a feminist. I'm not going to deny that. And I speak out quite a lot when I feel like it goes against what I believe in, especially if it portrays women to be weak and stuff like that. But when terms like that, for example, get thrown, it kind of just flies over my head. I don't really care for it because I think it's a figure of speech. But I understand how you may feel about that and someone else may feel about that. It's kind of like when people bring up man up and they're like, why are you saying man up? I say man up. Get over it.
The thing is, I think it's different. In life, people might say it. And I go, okay. And back in the older shows, I'd hear lots of stuff like that. Even girls would say it to men.
I do.
No, I'm not talking about man up, just about things like, you know, you hit like a girl or, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like in something that's so intentionally written, I'm like, I don't understand why that needed to be there. I just want to know why. What was the reasoning when then didn't have to be anything said?
It's probably just another banter between guys. It is something that you would say and they're trying to put a fun joke in there. I don't know. But like, yeah, certain things like that, it just annoys me where you can't say anything and everyone finds offense to every single thing.
I know, I'm not being offended.
No. But I'm glad you brought it up because I'm sure other people think the same.
We deal with, like, you know, we work in the film and TV industry, and we know about writing and things like that. So it's just, you know that nothing's an accident. It's not just it's not an improv thing where someone, I mean, maybe it was, maybe he ad-libbed that, I don't know. But it just made me wonder, why was it kept? Why did that feel like it was a necessary line to say as a joke? That was all. Just because nowadays they don't do things like that because of the fact that people take offense. So it just made me wonder, what was the writer's intention when he wrote it?
I agree.
Anthony Mackie, let me know.
I mean, not that I'm always on the fence with these things, but this isn't just to do with anything feminism. It's to do with everything. When it's policed down to a T, you're kind of like, life has lost its meaning. You literally can't say anything without getting attacked anymore.
I just wanted to know why. I mean, it's fine. Because, I mean, she did have super strength, so it's fine. I just wondered. Anyway, let's get to the end of the scene.
So Sam saves Bucky. He, like, swoops in under the truck.
And, you know, the thing that happens in a lot of, like, romantic comedies, they roll through a meadow with Bucky landing on top of Falcon.
Sam grunts.
Yeah,
Of the
like
weight
an
of
old-
Bucky.
Well, Bucky's heavy.
Yeah. Well, it's the vibranium arm.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. Bucky says you could have used the shield.
Ugh.
That's literally all it
But
was.
speaking of someone who did use the shield, John uses his shield to save Hoskins, who goes falling off the truck.
He's thrown off.
Yeah, so he uses it to catch him, which is a nice thing to do. But I was a bit like, yeah, you're going to screw up now because you don't have the power to stop these people. Like, he needed that shield.
Because he even struggles to kind of boost himself up onto the truck.
Yeah, he's not super
Which makes him human. You see it. Anyone else.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, he clearly is no match. Carly just punches him right off.
That's hilarious. I laughed because Walker says that was a bad idea. And then he gets punched off the truck.
And you're like, no, that was a bad idea. Just leave them. You're not going to be able to stop them. Who do you think you are? I mean, yeah, you're Captain America, but by title only.
And we see this later in the next scene. Because by wearing the outfit and by holding the shield doesn't make you Captain America.
All right, Bucky, calm down. We'll get there.
I see so someone's
I know. While I watched this, I was like, I feel like I'm Sam and Harvard's Bucky. Because, like, Bucky's just ruled by rage. Sam's just like, all right, chill. Oh my God, we're Sam and Bucky.
We are the whole time where even the things that he says to Sam, it's probably stuff I've said to you about minuscule things.
Oh, yeah. And you know, the repetitiveness, that is Harper, obsessing over the same.
Oh, I can't let little things go.
Nope. But, you know, we've never done a staring competition, but, you know, there's still time. Your camera's going to go off, isn't it? I'm doing a staring competition right now.
No, we're soul gazing. Oh, I blinked.
I won!
I shouldn't have said I was soul gazing. I put myself off.
Okay, so Bucky and Sam, they've recovered from their role in the, I was going to say
Roll in the
field. And they're walking down the street. They're talking about the fact that they were super soldiers. And that's when John and Hoskins pull up in their Jeep. Look at them with their Jeep.
The horn honks like they're picking up women.
But John wants them to work together. He wants them to actually become a team.
And they repeat what Sam say about the big three, which to me, it kind of triggered something. And I went, well, how do they know about the big three? Is it that it is a thing, or are they tracking them?
Well, I mean, we find out they are tracking them.
Exactly. So Bucky asks Walker, has he ever jumped on a grenade? But this is, I think, the first time since we've seen John Walker that he comes across a bit braggy. He says he has 4 times, and it's a thing, like a tactic with a reinforced helmet. And this just made me think back to the first Avenger. Steve did it without anything. He was selfless. He was this like tiny, teeny little guy. Jumped on a grenade and sacrificed himself. If you're using this as a tactic with a reinforced helmet, which obviously I'm guessing it's not bulletproof, but there's a way of containing the explosion.
Goes to show you that they're not the same. He wants to be, but he will never really be him. And he knows he won't be him exactly, but Bucky and Falcon do grudgingly get in the Jeep. They mentioned GRC, which Harvey mentioned earlier about the vaccines in the truck. The GRC are the Global Repatriation Council. It's an international council that reactivated the status of all the displaced people and managed the resources for them, because obviously they've come back into a world they don't really belong in anymore. So they reactivate citizenship and healthcare and things like that.
Walker says to him they deal with violent revolutionaries that are not good for anyone's cause. And Sam says usually this is said by people with the resources, which kind of made me think of Sam and his sister and his family who are suffering.
Right,
and Walker's way is like, well, you'll have all these things if you join us, but if you don't, then you're suffering like the other people.
Yeah.
Without even finished a sentence, Bucky says no. He signs the deal as soon as Hoskins says he's Battlestar, John's partner. Bucky just calls to the driver to stop the car and gets out. He's had enough as soon as Hoskins reveals he's got an alias. It's basically like, oh my God, you're a superhero now. Just shut up. And he's getting it. Battlestar, which we did briefly mention, he was introduced in Captain America issue 323. And he also gained super strength like Walker from the Power Broker.
Yeah.
He also became the new Bucky in the comics, but then changed his name to Battlestar.
I read that too, because apparently Bucky was demeaning to African Americans.
I don't know how. I didn't read too much into it. I did read that he still appears, even though Walker doesn't.
From what I read, you know how last week you mentioned that John Walker, when he was Captain America, he would fight some guys called the Buckies.
Yes.
This is what Hoskins was part of. He was part of the Bucks. So that's why he was called Bucky. But yeah.
Walker is portraying this humble dude, but then there's arrogance. There's this arrogance that oozes out of him in this whole scene, which shows us a different side, which we haven't seen yet. Going back to what I mentioned about the jock, I feel like I get that part of him at a later scene.
The thing that with this guy is, even though he didn't like all the handshakes and the speeches and all of that, he is the captain of a football team. He is someone who's had a lot of glory already. He's used to people cheering his name and he lives for it. That arrogance is going to be there. He loves the attention he's getting now for being this guy, even though he understands that there's a lot of responsibility in it.
What I did also notice here was another license plate. There might be no connection at all, but I included it just because this particular comic included pretty much every character that's in the series.
Okay.
The license plate said ZV SKC 31. I just thought, see, Captain America, issue 31. Why not have a look? This whole issue is part of the death of Captain America.
Right.
There's a doctor called Dr. Faustus. So the doctor brainwashed Sharon Carter and attempts to control Bucky by reactivating him. He tells him that he only really mattered when he was the Winter Soldier and he's nothing now, basically. And he says that Cap was a traitor in World War II. We also find out Sharon also shot Natasha Romanoff. So they're alive in this universe.
Okay.
Iron Man's still alive. And Falcon is with them as well. And I believe when Sharon comes to, she finds out that she's pregnant by Cap. I didn't really want to say that because I thought you might not be happy.
I'm not.
But there's a lot of crossover between these characters. I don't know whether there is any connection, but with the whole Captain America being dead and the burden of dreams, I'm kind of like, well, Bucky's holding this burden of Cap's death. I went, maybe there's a link somewhere in it. And we're still yet to see Sharon. I don't know whether Sharon's going to get mind control at some point, but you never know. So we now see the shot of a group of flag smashers that are about to enter a hideout. I guess this is where they are outside of Munich. There's graffiti on the alleyway, and it's of a wall of a man with his knees to his chest, and he's gagged. He's got tape over his mouth. And it's tagged, I believe it's Zapanotagy. That's definitely not pronounced right, but I'm saying it the way it's written.
Okay.
Below it, there's also 2 love hearts around Sokovia. And when I did put Zapanotagy in Google Translate, it's Polish for take a look. I thought, considering this is their hideout, something's going on. I just thought it's interesting take with the man gagged.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, they've arrived at this warehouse sort of place. So yeah, they're let in by this guy who seems to be hiding them out, basically. They're like refugees kind of going in and staying at people's places. And the guy is a massive fan. And I remember there was a handprint on the door as well.
Yeah, and it's got, so their logo's got the world in the palm of their hand. The guy says they're becoming a bit of a legend around the world. And he said more people are talking about freedom fighters, blah, 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 blah.
And he calls them, well, Robin Hood, which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, well, stealing from the rich to the poor. I guess that's the whole thing that they're giving.
I think I felt that last week, but I was like, they're doing it the wrong way. You know, when they broke out of the bank,
Exactly.
I was like, oh, maybe they're trying to spread some kind of wealth, but Robin Hood didn't do it that way.
He says that she and I guess the group will find refuge wherever she goes. And that's probably why she relaxed when she saw the beds.
Yeah, I guess.
They're obviously having to put their trust into random folk now around the world. But they're super soldiers. They can take them on.
It's true. But I guess they kind of want people to join them. They don't see themselves as people who take things from people that, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, for them rich, but they don't take it from people who are in need. They want those people to give them power by being on their side, followers, you know? So yeah, he gives them a room. It's got internet. They seem pretty happy in there. They're all like, Bets!
No.
But Carly gets a text message from an unknown number and it says, you took what was mine. I'm going to find you and kill you. And the first thought I had was Liam Neeson.
I know. I don't know whether you noticed her face in this scene. She genuinely looked worried to me.
Yeah, for sure. Like, she's scared of whoever sent her this message.
Well, you shouldn't have stolen what you stole then.
But I kind of like that about Carly.
It's showing vulnerability.
But yeah, she seems, like I said before, she doesn't see herself as a villain. She's someone who truly believes in whatever her cause is. She's not standing there going, whoa, my plan is falling into place. You know, she truly thinks she's going to do something good with whatever her desires are for the world. And she's British. Woo!
Yeah, I know. I didn't realise she was British, but I'm glad she kept her Staffordshire accent.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know who the message is from. I first wrote down like Curtis Jackson, Dr. Malice, which are people that worked in the power brokers. You know, how you said the GRC are somehow involved. I mean, the vaccines are theirs. So are the GRC and the power brokers all one?
Yeah.
But it's interesting that when they're mentioned later, they just call them the power brokers. They don't say GRC. So
no, but if, let's say it's Curtis Jackson, could he be someone on the inside who's working for GRC who's built this?
Curtis Jackson was like the guy who funded them, right? Dr. Malice was the guy who was making the serum and stuff. But Curtis Jackson was like the money.
Curtis Jackson was the West Division leader of the corporation of another criminal political organisation. And they came up against Captain America, Hulk, and the Marvel Man in the comics.
Oh, okay. So yeah, powerful person. I don't know if that would be him necessarily texting though. I just feel like, would you get some idiot to do that for you if you're that high up? But who knows? We'll see. They find out that they're kind of all over the news already.
They're wanted, yeah.
Carly kind of makes a little speech at that moment and tells everyone she kind of needs to know that everyone is going to be committed to the cause now, because she says after tomorrow there's no going back.
What's happening tomorrow? There's an attack that's due to happen, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, wherever they're flying to, something's going to happen tomorrow. No, stop it.
Tomorrow.
And they seem to have their own little saying, one world, one people.
Which, I don't know about you, but I just thought for the children. It was like their own little cult saying. We see a shot of Bucky and Sam back on the plane. And Sam asks Bucky whether he's okay, and he nods, which, even though he doesn't say anything, usually they just ignore each other. So at least he acknowledged his question in this point. And he just tells Sam, let's take the shield and do this for ourselves. And Sam explains to him that the last time they stole it, him and Steve were on the run for 2 years, and Sharon became an enemy of the state.
Falcon just says they have nothing, and I guess it's compared to what the other two have. And Bucky says that's not entirely true, and there is someone you should meet.
I guess he thinks that this could be a lead.
Okay, so the next scene is in Baltimore, Maryland. Falcon and Bucky are walking down the street. Kid calls Falcon, hey, it's Black Falcon.
Do they call you Black Kid?
They go to this house. Pretty rundown neighborhood in a way, right? This is not a very wealthy area. They knock on the door. A kid answers. And Bucky says they want to see Isaiah. And it's apparently someone Bucky...
He met him in Goyang, in a bar in Goyang, which is in South Korea.
Yeah. So it's someone he met during the Korean War, apparently in 1951.
Yeah.
So they're let in, I guess, because Isaiah's like, what? Yeah. And now we know Isaiah's this old dude. And I'm sure like comic book fans were all like, oh my God, it's Isaiah. But I had no idea who Isaiah was.
After I heard that he'd met him in 1951, I was like,
yeah, I was like, clearly this guy is a big deal. But but yeah, for me, I was just like, I don't know who this is. So apparently they met in 1951, but he's like, if by met you mean, you know, I whooped your ass.
Yeah. Isaiah said he took half his arm. And Iron Man did that as well. So I thought, oh, it's not the first time.
Bucky kind of says, I can't remember what prompts it, but he says he's not a killer anymore. And Isaiah, I quote, says, you think you can wake up one day and decide who you want to be? He
says at the end, it doesn't work like that, but maybe it does for folks like you. That's the first hint of possible racial profiling here.
We've realised Isaiah's a super soldier of his own because he throws a plate, something. He throws it and it goes into the wall, like not in the way that it would if I threw it. So clearly this guy's strong, or they've got really, really rubbish walls.
You saw Sam's face.
Yeah. And he kind of says, I quoted it too, but I may have paraphrased. You know what they did to me for being a hero? They put my ass in jail for 30 years. Apparently they did tests on him, and even Hydra were not done with him.
Oh, he says even your people weren't
Yeah,
done
he
with
says
me.
your people, but he means Hydra. I'm assuming he didn't just mean white people.
Again, it's another hint of, oh, snap, this is about race. And it's digging deep in this whole scene.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, this is, you know, it's not even just something for the show for anyone that's thinking that they're doing that. This is
real life.
Yeah, I mean, no, but not just that. It was in the comics. I mean, the racism was all over Isaiah. It's the character Isaiah Bradley in the comics. He dealt with racism as well. It's not just a thing they just decided to add in. You know, he was also known as the Black Captain America. He was part of African American soldiers who were used as test subjects by at Camp Cathcart. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It was apparently a part of Project Rebirth's attempt to recreate the super soldier serum, and only a handful of the men survived. Some were deformed. Basically, it was horrible. They used them. They didn't ask them. There was no voluntary thing here. They just took 300 men and made them test out this horrible experimental serum and didn't care what happened to them, basically. I don't think they actually gave a crap what happened. And after a bunch of other stuff, Bradley was actually the only survivor, and then he took on the mantle of Captain America. He traveled to Europe in the comics to fight in the war, so not Korea. Basically, they thought it was treason just because he took the costume, and they sentenced him to life in prison as punishment. I mean, even though he just saved everybody, like, it was crazy. But he was released after 17 years, so I guess that's something. But yeah, they kind of, I think the condition of his release was that it was not told to anybody.
He was sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, so no one knows. But apparently in the comics anyway, became a legend to the Black community.
Let's say a myth, because no one had seen it, really.
Exactly.
And his character was introduced in the comics Truth, Red, White and Black. By reading what we did read, this is a story that I hope isn't just introduced and brushed under the carpet. I hope that in some way, shape or form, we find more about Isaiah's story.
But that story, that's such a rich story. It's such a history there to delve into that you kind of, I want to know more.
This is the one thing that I really respect about what the show is doing so far. There are certain shows that will incorporate something that's going on in the world right now, make it current, but it can feel forced. This, as you said, was already in the comics, and it still relates to life right now, that it fits in so perfectly, and nothing at the moment to me is feeling forced with the touchy subjects.
I mean, like we said as well last week, like, you can't have a storyline with like one lead who is Black and then act like none of this is happening to the world. Whether it be a broken world that of the Avengers or the world now, which isn't exactly not broken. I mean, it's happening, and it's been happening even when the world wasn't broken. So, but he throws them out. He throws them out anyway.
Sam has questions.
Yeah.
And after he throws them out, Sam is peeved off a lot, and he has a right to be in this moment. But I also understand Bucky's reasoning. Just before we get there, I did have some comments on Eli, which is his grandson.
Yeah.
In the comics, he becomes Patriot, which is another superhero. I think he takes some growth hormone before he's infused with his grandfather's blood. But he becomes a member and leader of the Young Avengers.
Yeah.
And Feige has said that this series leads into at least 3 other MCU projects.
Oh my God.
Whether the Young Avengers is one of it or not, I don't know, but that will happen at some point. But yeah, we see them outside. Sam incredibly angry.
Yeah, I mean, he's not angry with obviously Bucky. Not really. He's angry with the fact, like, I mean, it's exactly what the government would do, though, let's face it.
And just as this is happening, what happens?
So a cop car pulls up, and they're asking Bucky if he's being bothered by this man. Now, people might watch this scene and be like, oh, please, excuse me, are you not watching the news? It's like, happens every day. This isn't something new. I mean, the only thing that saves him is the fact that the guy next, the other cop, says these are Avengers. And that's the only reason. He goes, it's exactly what happens to famous people.
Because he said, if I had known who you were, I wouldn't stop you. So what, you still stop another Black kid?
So, yeah, I mean, the show makes you angry and it should make you angry, but not because they're touching upon this stuff, but because it's happening and they have to. They shouldn't have to, but they have to because look at the world.
Yeah.
So, funnily enough, though, after they go, oh, do we need to arrest Falcon? They realise they actually have to arrest Bucky.
Yeah.
There's
because,
a warrant.
part of his pardoning was what? He had to go to therapy.
And he missed it. So, we're at the police station. Sam, I thought this was lovely because Sam didn't go in the police car. He just walked off.
Yeah,
But
he didn't need to be there.
He loves him, really. I know he does. So he's waiting for him, and a therapist from last week, Dr. Rayner, turns up and they meet for the first time. It sounds like he's been bailed out, but it's not Dr. Rayner who bailed him out. It's someone else. I'm making a face.
I know, because we hear him.
So John Walker is there all being like, hey, I'm taking selfies with everybody.
And then he says that he's signed off so that Bucky doesn't need to go to any more therapy.
Yeah, because he's too valuable. So the therapist is like, well, you've been released, but that's only because you're going to have a session with me now. And that includes Sam. So they're in this session. I did laugh at Freaky Magoo. And
I did as well.
But I looked it up just because I thought, is that something? It's not really, but on the MCU fandom page for Winter Soldier, it is now added as one of his aliases, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, I love
Someone
it.
responded very quickly and added that in. So I love that Dr. Rayner decides to do like couples therapy with them. The kind of therapy done for two people that need to figure out how to build their lives together.
Yeah. And then they start off with the miracle question. So that doesn't work.
No.
So they do the next thing, which is soul gazing
Which we
exercise.
attempted just a little earlier.
And which they've done already on the plane.
Sam goes, oh, we will love this.
Yeah. And, they were just getting closer. She was like, no, get closer. And they're like, do you want to go inside or outside?
Know. They were practically scissoring each other. And then they start doing a staring contest without it coming up. And then the therapist realizes.
Yeah. And she just clicks. She snapped. God, that must be a trigger. Come on, Rayner.
But then the doctor asks Bucky why Sam actually really bothers him, and is like, without being childish, give me an actual answer. And this is where we really see some honesty from Bucky.
Why did you give up the shield? Which has been an ongoing thing throughout this episode.
But we understand why now.
He said Steve believed in you and trusted you. That was his legacy, everything he stood for, and maybe he was wrong. And if he was wrong about you, then he's wrong about me.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that, the reason why Bucky even tried to be good is because Steve believed that he could be.
Yeah.
I could get emotional right now because
I know.
I have such
know.
a thing with them. It's like I know them. They're like brothers to me. That shows you how much weight that he holds in the words of Steve. Considering for him, when he knew Steve originally, Steve was this little kid sort of thing.
I know.
That he looked
but they
after.
always had each other's back.
They did. With you to the end of the line,
Oh, God. That's like our line.
I know.
And Steve looked up to him. It literally went both ways. But Bucky being who he was and popular with the girls and everything like that, he wanted to be Steve at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. I think as much as he was like what Steve wanted to look like or be, Bucky knew that Steve had the heart, the good in him anyway. It's just so lovely. Their
I know.
friendship.
It makes me want to watch the first Avenger again.
Me too. I might put it on after this. It's so good.
Sam says something to him and he says, can you just accept that what I did and I thought I was right? Because he says it's something that you and Steve may not ever understand. So you just need to accept that I did what I did because I thought it was right.
Yeah. And to me, that meant that they won't understand because they're white.
Exactly. 100%. That's what I thought.
As good as they are, especially Steve, they can't understand. Just like we can't understand.
No. Nothing else really happens, but they both kind of like agree to disagree and leave.
So they leave the station. And who's there? Who's there, Harper?
Ugh. John Walker.
Look, we wanted to like him. We really did. And I don't hate him still. I don't hate him. But stop being so arrogant, okay?
He says if we divide ourselves, we don't stand a chance.
Which, in a way, he's kind of right.
Again, this is the moment where I'm like, yeah, I totally get you. But then he goes, in the very smug way, he tells them about Carly Morgenthau.
Morgenthau, I don't care.
He tells them about him,
And
gives
the
them pretty much
handprints
a
as well.
lead.
Yeah.
But then he says, a word of advice, stay the hell out of my way.
Well, he says that because he wants them to work together. But Falcon makes a very good point in that...
He does.
But that Captain America, fake Captain America, has to go through all these hoops just to be able to do anything, especially because he's not, he's someone that follows that Accords, I'm assuming.
He's a member of the government. He's government property.
Exactly. He's their puppet. He's going to do what they want. But they're free agents, so they can just get on with it. And that's when he tells him that. And you're just like, well, no need to be a dick about it. He's right. I mean, why are they going to wait for you to go through all these bloody hoops?
The music here is also, I'm guessing it's going to be part of his theme.
Maybe, yeah.
Or one of his themes. It is very low and dramatic. And also the way he signals them over by like the police siren. This is why I mentioned the jock thing earlier. It's like when teenage boys in high schools, in the films that we see, there's a way of them calling girls over or like, oh, check me out, blah, 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 like honk, 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 honk.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't turn up in a convertible, to be honest with you. I don't even think Steve would stand by a car and just call people over like that. He would walk over to them. Whereas this guy's like, I'm too cool to be going over to you. You come to me.
Come to me.
We'll see what happens with him. But, if it goes in the way of the comics, he's not necessarily a horrible person in the comics, but he's not a good person either. So he could cause problems, especially if they get mixed up with the power brokers, which is probably where it is going to head because GRC, right?
Yeah. Again, whether it happens in the rest of the series or whether it goes on to something else after, we don't know.
Exciting though.
I know. I'm very excited about the storyline because there's so many ways.
There's so many ways, but there's not enough time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we cut to Bratislava, Slovakia. Flag smashers loading stuff onto a private jet. I'm assuming it's the vaccines again. So one of the guys gets an alert that the power brokers men have found them. I don't know how, but they found me.
The Libyans.
Oh my God. I'm actually annoyed that they did not turn up in the little Volkswagen.
But we see black SUVs speed down the highway. And it goes back to what I said to you about being the GRC, because these are military guys. This isn't just, a separate group.
Yeah, it's true, actually, because the guys that end up coming out of the cars, aren't they all like army kind of guys? Yeah, they're not like men in business suits or anything. There's only one guy with a business suit, yeah.
And he's got a bulletproof vest on, and there's other guys in camouflage by the cars. So I'm like, GRC, government military, power broker. There's definitely a connection. But go on.
So see, there was this one guy, obviously he dies in this scene, so he's not important. But did you notice that this guy was someone Carly was very attached to? Because in the scene on the truck, he falls or something, and she kind of stops to check on him. So
yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily think they're in love because they don't kiss or anything.
But there's
definitely some kind of affection.
Related.
So they're not just working together. These aren't just strangers that don't care about the fate of each other. They are actual people that care. And I think that's really interesting that we've got villains that actually seem like they are human, if that makes sense, considering they're super soldiers.
He also sacrificed himself in a way I don't think John Walker ever would.
No way. So, yeah, he says he'll stall them, and he pushes like an electric pole or something in front of the cars. And then he goes in front of them and kind of starts walking towards them, right? And they shoot at him. They gun him down, basically.
He also says again, one world, one people.
Yeah, he does. That's their thing. And yeah, the plane manages to take off, but Carly is looking through the window really sad. But yeah, so they leave. The next scene, we're back, I guess, maybe outside the station or just somewhere around the station. They're still walking, and Bucky kind of hints. They don't say who at first, but I immediately knew who.
Yeah.
But Zemo is the person they need to talk to because he'll have information that John Walker won't have, and they can get ahead of them.
He says he knows Hydra's secrets.
I mean, Sam doesn't seem that into the idea at first, but, I think...
He knows it's the only lead that they've got.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of worried about Bucky being around him again, right? Because, he was the guy giving him the prompts. I mean, I don't know how...
He tried to reactivate. Yeah. Well, he did. He did reactivate him.
I feel like they're going to use Zemo to be a bit like, Hannibal Lecter. Do you know what I mean? Like...
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to have power behind there? Is he going to be trying to get into Bucky's head again? What are you up to,
This is
Zemo?
why Sam has to be with. He can't let Bucky go alone.
Yeah, so we see, I looked it up because I didn't know, but it's Berlin.
Yeah, it's Berlin, the shot of Berlin.
Yeah.
Again,
and...
you know, my Berlin trip got cancelled last year. It's all right for some.
Well, Harvey, you're getting to see it in the show. Stop complaining. And we're in a prison, cell number 2187. Zemo! I looked up the 2187 thing, and apparently it's Finn's stormtrooper number, right? It's his stormtrooper number.
It is, but you know why it's his stormtrooper number, right?
No.
It's because it's Princess Leia's cell number in A New Hope.
Well, the research I did only just went as far as Force Awakens. It didn't go back. But why was it Princess? Did you know why it was Princess Leia's?
Because it was Princess. But yeah, that was a great nod. Obviously, they own it as well. So
yeah, and that's kind of how it ends, right? We just see Zemo sitting in a cell.
The empty corridors. There's a red light, which made me think of everything we saw in WandaVision, the red light and Hydra.
Yeah.
We see chess pieces. Who's he been playing chess with? So, yeah, we see that Zemo is in prison in Berlin. But while we see these shots, we hear the classical requiem of Mozart's Lacrimosa.
Oh, no, sorry. I won't torture you guys.
Completely unconnected, but this, I mean, it's played in a lot of things. This was also played pretty much throughout in every episode of HBO's Watchmen. Mozart believed he was writing this for his own funeral. He died without actually finishing the composition.
That sucks.
And for me, hearing the music at the time that we're about to be introduced to Zemo over again, it gave me a sense of death. Of death is coming. We don't know for who. And the fact that there's unfinished business for whatever Zemo's got going on. There was something poetic about hearing that in that scene. So, end credits now. Woo!
Finally!
But it has literally just been released, I think less than 24 hours ago, that the end credits music is called Louisiana Hero. But Henry Jackman says this is Sam's theme in The Winter Soldier 2. But he's taken it on and used a brief heroic melody and developed it into a fully realised superhero theme. That's what he says. And then he's also brought in elements of the Southern blues, like the electric guitar that you hear, to reflect his hometown.
I kind of want to watch all of the films again.
I do. I definitely do.
Maybe just the Captain America ones. Just so I could, just in case something comes up and I missed it.
Yeah.
For people who are following us on social media, we did a little poll just to see, what people are thinking based on the first impression of the new Captain America. On Instagram, it was basically 100% not my cap.
And it wasn't just us voting,
no.
I promise.
Facebook, it was 100% not my cap. And on Twitter, it was a little different. So on there, we got 79% not my cap, but still 21% said give him a chance. I judge you. No, I don't. I kind of do. Let's be honest. I judge you. We had some thoughts from Becky23Y on Instagram.
Hi, Becky.
Hi, Becky. And she had some good comments. Number one was, I loved Bucky and Sam's comedic interactions. Yes, so did we.
So did we.
Number two, she loved hearing Captain America's theme tune by the school band. I didn't because he's not Captain America, but...
It was an updated version, but it was nice to hear it back because we haven't seen it since then.
She said, fake Cap reminds her of the annoying and arrogant Paul brothers on YouTube. Now, I didn't know who they were, so I looked them up. So it's Logan Paul and Jake Paul. I don't follow them.
I know
couldn't
who
bring
Logan
myself
Paul
to press
is,
play, but they looked
yeah.
annoying from the pictures, so I'll agree with you. Is Chris Evans watching? What's his reaction? You know what? I'd love to know this too. He doesn't tweet about it. He doesn't Instagram about it. He's got his own stuff going on with the political stuff, so he doesn't really comment on this, but I am curious as to what he thinks.
I would assume, going by what we've known from what Hayley Atwell has said in interviews, that he is supportive of what's going on, but he's probably not going to follow the story.
And then she said that she's very excited by Daniel Bruhl because she's loved him since Goodbye Lenin, since she was 14. Oh, he was in Rush, right? Was it called Rush?
He
I'm going to
was.
be wrong. Is it Rush?
Yes,
Just
he
called
was.
Rush. But yeah, with Chris Hemsworth. And he was really great. Like, that was the first thing I saw him in.
I'm surprised you watched Rush, because I don't think that would have been your type of film.
I just watched it because Chris Hemsworth was naked in a bit, so I thought I'd give it a go. And
I was like, come on, this is about a racing driver. How is she watching this?
But I watched it, and
You
it was
hate
all
sport.
right. I do. But if there's nakedness in it, I might give it a go. But I found him really fascinating, like the way he played it. And
He's a great actor.
But yeah, the last thing Becky 23Y asks is, where are the rest of the Avengers? Well, it looks like they've all kind of disbanded. I mean, a couple of them have died. Hawkeye will find out, but I'm assuming he's back with his family, just getting to enjoy his family a little bit.
Well, because I don't know when his show's coming out.
You know, Thor went off with the Guardians of the Galaxy, so he's going to have his own adventures in
We will
his
see
own
him in
place.
that.
And Hulk, I just don't know where he is, but I don't know. You know, he has his issues. Is he still green? We don't even know. Guys, that's it for this week. Subscribe now and be the first to know when our episodes are available. 4 episodes of The Falcon and Winter Soldier left, Harbour.
What? It's gone by too quick. We hope you enjoyed our show. Have any comments or questions? Get in touch via our website, geeklyrecap.weebly.com, or by tagging us at Geekly Recap Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
We'd love to know what your thoughts are. Don't forget to use the hashtag GeeklyRecapPod.
Next week, we'll be recapping episode 3. Will Zemo prove helpful? Will John stop being annoying?
Nah.
Okay, strike that. Or will we see Isaiah or Eli again?
Join us next week and let's find out together.
Bye!